Today, it's a great honor for me to introduce you to one of our own, an I&I alumnus. So, I first interacted with today's speaker via email that he sent me in about 2008 when he was a prospective student, and he was an undergraduate from Stockton University in New Jersey. And he wanted to introduce himself to me because he felt that he perhaps didn't fit the typical mold of a Carnegie Mellon prospective student. And his email was so genuine and sincere. It truly struck me, the authentic tone that it took. I will never forget it to this day. And interestingly enough, the night he graduated, I went back home to do some work, and I was doing a search on something or other, and that email popped up from 2.5 years previously when he was considering coming to the I&I, and it really, really touched my heart. Ryan was an MS-21, and I'm going to tell this story, and I'm going to embarrass Vicki here, because I can't help myself but to embarrass her. So, Vicki is his lovely wife. Say hello to everybody, Vicki. Vicki started the program in Athens, Greece, and she was one of the recipients of an opportunity to come celebrate our 20th year and spend some time on the Pittsburgh campus. Well, we decided for each of the recipients of the prize who could come from our campuses abroad that we would have an I&I ambassador matched up to each student so that they can host the student and make sure the student has everything he or she needs. Well, I picked Ryan because Vicki happens to be an incredibly beautiful and intelligent woman. And I wanted to put her in safe hands. And I picked the right guy for the job because just a couple years later, I had the pleasure and honor to give a toast at their wedding. So. So Ryan Shaw is an MS-21 who is now Chief Information Security Officer at Arconic. He's an incredible role model for all of you graduating today. In just a short span of years, Ryan went from where you're sitting to becoming a talented C-level executive. Please join me in welcoming today's speaker, MS-21 alum, Ryan Shaw.
Good afternoon, everyone. When Dina asked me to do this address, I was incredibly honored and excited to be able to share this experience with all of you. As Dina mentioned, it feels like just weeks ago when I was sitting in all of your seats, and I remember my thoughts and my emotions very clearly. I was filled with pride, and I was also sweating and overheating in these graduation gowns. And somehow I agreed to relive this, so I'm not quite sure how that happened. When I asked Dina what it should be about, I was ready to take some detailed notes. And she responded in a true Dina doing 1,000 things at once fashion. She said something inspiring and smiled. So thank you for the detailed guidance. I spent about a month brainstorming what could be inspirational, motivational, short, and all of you are lucky because I only came up with 2 words, but they're a good 2 words, I promise you. So the first one being persistence. There is an old maxim popularized by a now legendary golfer, Gary Player. He was practicing in a sand bunker one day when a man came over to watch him. He holed the first stroke he took, and for those of you unfamiliar with golf, that means he got the ball in the hole. And the man taunted Gary. He said, $50 if you can do it again for the second time. So sure enough, Gary did. He got 2 for 2. The man who clearly did not learn his lesson said $100 more if you can do it a third time. Sure enough, Gary went 3 for 3. The man walked up to Gary begrudgingly and was handing over the money and said, I have never seen anybody so lucky in my entire life. And Gary responded now famously, well, the harder I practice, the luckier I get. We're all here today to celebrate something. We're celebrating that you're not here because of your luck. We're here because of your hard work and your practice. What all of you went through were the first million swings that Gary took to assist in making those very last 3. Now, that may sound like a lot, but you have to ask yourself, what do we do from here? We all have mentors, idols, people we look up to. And often you think, how did they get there? How did they achieve so much? How did they get so lucky? And in reality, no one was behind Gary during his first million misses. Nobody saw the divots in the grass or the squirrels getting knocked out of the trees with his slices. The message is, with persistence, continue to practice even harder than you already have, and life will give you your dreams. Number 2, opportunity. My wife is from Greece, and they have an incredibly proud and deep culture there. If you know anything about the country, you'll know that there are thousands of islands, hundreds of which are inhabited. And needless to say, the sea is one of their most defining characteristics of the culture. There's a saying that when on the sea, you cannot change the direction of the wind, but you can always adjust your own sails. So how does one do that? I graduated from the INI and I entered an extremely technical position doing forensic software engineering. My organization would assist customers in being proactive with their security, but also reactive when security incidents occurred. And for the family here, security incidents is a very polite way of saying somebody just got hacked. The team would go in, find root cause, and we would recommend controls so that it wouldn't or shouldn't happen again. I began looking for other opportunities, and an interesting role presented itself. It was in management, a position of leadership at that, and it was at Alcoa, a manufacturing company. It wasn't exactly what I was looking for, but I wanted to broaden my horizons and grow my business experience. So I went to talk with them. I left the interview confident. I thought I had done well enough, but I was unsure of my own direction. There was no engineering, no technical development. I would be reporting to the CISO of a Fortune 500 company. I was really truly conflicted. As the INI students here would know, going through courses like operating systems and not making a career out of engineering is sort of like Michelangelo painting the roof of the Sistine Chapel, taking a step back and saying, on second thought, art's not for me. But I had a moment of clarity. In the interview, I was asked what I wanted out of the role, and I very quickly answered. I said that I wanted to affect change. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to be a part of and remain a part of a company. So in order to do that, I realized that I would need to make a career move. So I felt the wind change, and I adjusted my own sail. Fast forward 3 years, Alcoa announced that they would be separating into 2 publicly traded companies. Alcoa, a mining company specializing in aluminum, and Arconic, lightweight materials heavily engaged in aerospace and automotive engineering. I was asked if I would be interested in managing the security of the entire separation. Now, needless to say, this was more than a full-time job, so I of course asked about my current responsibilities and duties, and they said, don't worry, you still get to do those. Even still, despite the challenge, I adjusted my sail. Now, during that year, my wife almost threw me overboard a couple times, but I digress. Fast forward again, our CISO retired, and the CIO offered me the position. You take all those fears, concerns, self-doubt I had before and multiply them by 100. To give you some perspective, Brett Arsenault, who is Microsoft's CISO, has said that the CISO is the least interesting C-level executive to the board until the CISO is the most interesting executive to the board. I say this because opportunities are hard. You have to chase them, you have to want them, most importantly, you have to deserve them. but you also can't be afraid of them. So many times in my career, I have asked myself a paralyzing thought of what if I fail? But what's driven me here today was a much more powerful thought of what if I don't? If I could leave all of you with one thought, it would be this. From the moment you receive your diploma, continue to practice your very hardest, and don't be afraid to adjust your own sails. Do this, and I promise you, life's wind will always seem to be blowing you in the right direction, almost as if you're lucky. Thank you.